Welcome back, everyone. Now we're going to discuss the Earned Income Credit.
In this lesson, we'll start by explaining how the Earned Income Credit helps taxpayers. You will learn how taxpayers can qualify for it, and we'll do some practice exercises. We'll finish up with the completion of the 1040 overview.
What is the Earned Income Credit? The Earned Income Credit is a federal tax credit for low and moderate income individuals and families. It encourages and rewards work as well as offsets federal payroll and income taxes. The EIC is a refundable credit, so this means taxpayers who qualify can get a refund even if they have no filing requirement, they owe no tax, or had no income tax withheld. The immediate benefits are an increased refund to help pay for living expenses, immediate needs, and savings. But research shows that the benefits for these families extend way beyond this tax season. According to a research study conducted by the CBPP, the EIC, together with the Child Tax Credit, helps families at every stage of their lives, starting at the very beginning with improvements in infant health indicators like birth weight and premature birth, and higher test scores for elementary and middle school students. The children of these working families who receive these tax credits are more likely to go to college and increase earnings in the next generation. And by encouraging work, taxpayers are contributing to their Social Security, which helps reduce poverty after retirement. The amount of EIC a taxpayer receives depends on three factors: filing status, number of qualifying children, and the amount of earned income. As you can see on this chart, the amount of EIC increases as the amount of earned income increases. It levels off, then begins to decrease as income increases.
The EIC has a maximum credit for each of these categories, with the highest amount for taxpayers with three or more qualifying children. The maximums are inflation adjusted and usually increase every year.
Recall the two types of income. Unearned income is income received from retirement, investments, and other sources for which services are not performed. Earned income is income received for performing services, such as wages or self-employment income. For EIC, only earned income is considered. How do taxpayers qualify for the EIC? There's a set of rules for everyone, and a set of rules for taxpayers with one qualifying child or more, and for taxpayers with no qualifying children.
First, the rules for everyone. To qualify for the EIC, you must have a valid Social Security number and be a U.S. citizen or resident. So individual taxpayer identification numbers for taxpayers who do not have a Social Security number are not allowed. Investment income must be at or below the investment income limit, and income limits apply. Those filing separate are ineligible, and you cannot be the qualifying child of another taxpayer.
The tests for taxpayers with one or more qualifying children are relationship, age, residency, and joint return. Now, I don't want to make this too confusing, but I wanted to point this out. Notice how this differs from the qualifying child test for dependency. There's no test for support. For relationship, the qualifying child must be your child, sibling, or descendant, but they do not have to be your dependent. If someone could be a qualifying child but don't qualify only because they provide more than half of their support, that individual may still be a qualifying child for EIC. This is useful for working students who are, say, living at home but providing a majority of their own support. It doesn't come up often, but it can be beneficial for some families. This is why we ask clients to list everyone living in their home on the intake sheet, whether or not they're claiming that person as a dependent, so we have a full picture of their situation in order to maximize their benefits. Moving on. A qualifying child for EIC must be under age 19 or 24 if a student, or any age if disabled. They must have lived with the taxpayer more than half the year, and the child cannot file a joint return. For taxpayers without a qualifying child, They must be at least age 25 but under age 65, and they must have lived in the U.S. for more than half the year.
You can find a chart with all of the EIC eligibility requirements in your 4012. Part D at the bottom of the chart shows the income limitations for each EIC category. In your 4012, you can find charts with interview tips. You can use these to work through the questions with clients to help determine EIC eligibility. This can help clients understand why they are or are not eligible for EIC. There is a chart for the general eligibility rules, the rules for everyone, one for taxpayers who have one or more qualifying children, and one for taxpayers without a qualifying child. It is very important to use these charts in your 4012 to ensure clients are getting the EIC they are entitled to and to avoid mistakes with taxpayers who are not eligible.
If the IRS determines that a taxpayer claimed the EIC when they weren't eligible, or they claimed too much, the credit can be disallowed or reduced. This can cause the taxpayer's refund to be delayed or result in them having to pay back the amount disallowed if the error is not caught before it's paid out. This can create a hardship for taxpayers because it typically will result in additional penalties and interest and can affect future tax returns and refunds. Part 5 of the intake form has a question regarding disallowance in prior years. If the disallowance was for a reason other than a math or clerical error, Form 8862 must be filed with the return if claiming the earned income credit. The return will be rejected if Form 8862 is not completed when required. If the IRS determines the earned income credit was claimed with intentional disregard for the rules, a taxpayer can be banned from claiming the credit for 2 years, 10 years if the error is due to fraud.
Let's see if Vanessa qualifies for the earned income credit. To determine if Vanessa qualifies for the earned income credit, we'll start with the rules for everyone. She has a valid Social Security number and is not married filing separate. She is a U.S. citizen and has no foreign income. Her investment income doesn't exceed the limit, and she is not the qualifying child of another person. Now, does she have a qualifying child for EIC? If you think she does not, you're right. Samantha fails the first test based on relationship because they are not related. So is Vanessa eligible on her own? She is over 25 and not a dependent of anyone else. She lived in the U.S. at least half of the year and is not the qualifying child of another person. So far, so good, right? Now let's go to Part D for income limitations. Take a look at her earned income and AGI and the income limitation for taxpayers without a qualifying child. As you can see, her earned income and AGI exceed the limitations for taxpayers without a qualifying child. So Vanessa is not eligible for earned income credit. Did you get that right? Now let's do some practice using the interview tips. We'll see if Megan qualifies for EIC. You've already determined that she'll file head of household, and that Francesca is her qualifying child dependent. Here's her earned income and AGI. Start with the general eligibility rules. Let's go through the chart, starting with step 1. At this point, we can assume that we are checking her eligibility for EIC with one qualifying child. Her earned income and AGI are under the limit, so she's good there. Step 2. Megan and Francesca both have social security numbers that allow them to work. Step 3. Megan is not married filing separate. Step 4. They are U.S. citizens. Step 5. Megan has no foreign income. And Step 6. Her investment income doesn't exceed the limit. Step 7. Megan is not the qualifying child of another taxpayer. So now we go to the interview tips for EIC with a qualifying child. Step 1. Francesca had a valid social security number. Step 2. Francesca is her daughter. Steps 3 and 4, if you recall, Francesca is 8, so she meets the age requirement and is not married. Step 5. She lived with Megan all year. Finally, Step 6. Francesca is not the qualifying child of another person. So Megan would qualify for EIC with a qualifying child. How'd you do?
Part of our job is helping clients understand their tax situations. Both of these family situations we explored really help illustrate how complex the rules for filing status, dependency, and earned income credit can be. Get to know your 4012 and walk through the charts with clients. Don't hesitate to ask your site manager or other volunteers who are more experienced for assistance. Certainly, if there's anything that you are not sure of. It may seem intimidating now, but trust me, you'll be surprised how simple it can be once you're in the tax office. Now let's finish up with the 1040.
A few more things to point out on the 1040 before we close. This is where everything comes together. This is where you learn if you have a refund or a balance due. Here is where you determine how you want to receive your refund. Direct deposit information is entered here. There is another form for the signature if the return is being electronically filed, but for paper returns, this is where the taxpayer and spouse will sign the return. At the very bottom, you'll notice a section for paid preparers to sign the return. As volunteers, we do not sign the tax return. Form 8879 is what you will see most often. Clients sign this form when electronically filing returns, and it becomes a part of the client's file for our records. Again, as volunteers, we do not sign this form.
Congratulations! You made it to the end of the Earned Income Credit lesson, which is the end of the online Introduction to Tax Preparation. Let's wrap this up. In this lesson, you learned that in order to qualify for Earned Income Credit, there are rules for everyone, rules for taxpayers with a qualifying child, and rules for taxpayers without a qualifying child. Use the charts in your 4012 to go through the steps and engage the client in the process. And lastly, use your 4012. Can't stress this enough.
As a reminder, our training classes are held in Stevens Hall at Towson University. Training occurs over the first 3 weeks of January. Make sure you bring your photo ID so we can verify your identity for the IRS. If you have not signed up for training or need more information, contact me.